It was a violent Christmas weekend in what's already been a violent year in Chicago. The extended holiday weekend saw 30 people shot, 8 of them died. In Atlanta, from Christmas to Sunday, 3 fatal shootings. It's the deadliest year there since 1998. In New York, shootings are up 95% this year, a 38% jump in murders. And in Seattle, there have been 47 homicides through November. That city had just 28 in all of 2019. For more on what's behind the surge of violence across the U.S., we're joined by Jason Rantz, KTTH radio talk show host in Seattle. Great to have you back with us, Jason.
Thanks for having me. I hate to give the update, though. Seattle is now at a 96% increase in homicides here. It's absolutely insane. We're seeing these crime surges all across the country for a combination of things. Number one, some folks will point to the fact that we are in the middle of a COVID crisis, and that is playing a role. Number one, we have seen an increase, for example, in domestic violence homicides because people who are victims of domestic violence can't really leave their homes, and so they're stuck with their abusers. But we're also releasing lots of criminals because the prisons won't hold people over concerns due to COVID. And some of the people that they're releasing should not actually be released, and they're committing a lot of these crimes. But the real reason why we're seeing a lot of this is we're not keeping people in prisons. And it's unrelated in a way to COVID because we're just going down this path that's ideologically driven, that's saying, hey, the justice system is inherently racist. You've got racist cops arresting people disproportionately, people of color, putting them in front of racist judges and racist juries, and they're getting sentences, and we've seen an over-incarceration, so now they're trying to correct. Except they're overcorrecting. So now they're giving endless second, third, fourth, fifth chances. In some cases, like here in Seattle, there's been one person who had 76 chances. And they're not getting the help that they need, and they continue to commit acts of violence. And some of these are going to the point of murders.
Right, because we're not just talking about people in trouble for shoplifting or those kinds of things. I mean, we know in Orange County, I think it is in California, there's a sheriff who is fighting there, and he says that some of the 1,800 people he's been ordered to release from jail are people of much more serious allegations, including things like murder. Some of them are just awaiting trial. Some of them have been convicted. But he says these are violent crimes. This isn't just borderline marginal juvenile delinquency, that kind of thing. The Boston Herald had an opinion, an editorial today, that said this: crime has skyrocketed through major metropolitan areas of the U.S. in 2020. While the pandemic continues to ravage us and criminals continue to feel more emboldened, we must be sure to support local law enforcement and endeavor to help those who are the most marginalized and may be tempted to turn to crime in order to ease their financial burdens. What about that part of supporting local law enforcement? Because there's been talk that some of these officers are going to be reluctant to get involved in certain situations. They're worried about mishandling, getting into trouble themselves, and weighing whether it's worth the risk to get involved in some of these calls and criminal activity.
100%. I mean, you've got a movement across the country that's defunding the police and or talking down about the police, constantly berating them and demonizing them and going after them. There's a movement to make it easier to charge police officers for legitimate mistakes that they might make in the field. And so you're not only getting police officers to question the work that they're doing, but you're literally, and pardon the bad pun, but you are handcuffing them from doing their actual job. In some of these major cities, from Seattle to Portland to Minneapolis and New York, they're simply leaving the departments and they're going to other agencies, usually in smaller cities, and they're policing there. And that's really good news for those cities, the smaller ones that don't really deal with the level of crime that the major cities are. But of course, we've seen the statistics bear out. The defund the police movement and this general culture of demonizing police is directly resulting in more crime.
Yeah, it takes a toll. And we always say it's nobody wants a bad cop out more than the good cops. And we know the vast majority of them are. And they want those cases handled, but they feel very much under attack these days. Jason Rantz, see you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
You too. All right, some good